The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio. Coming up on the program today, we're going to talk about how you can protect your plants from the extreme heat, as well as fall seed saving. And our guest will be rose expert Paul Zimmerman, and will answer your garden questions. The hour's jam-packed, and it'll begin right now.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Welcome to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us. I'm your host, Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you, about you, to help your garden grow better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. If you want to get a hold of us, well, we want to thank you, whether you're listening to us on one of the 15 AM and FM frequencies that are carrying our program in 2021, a radio app through our parent website, the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.com, WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, or a podcast replay or in-studio video replay. Thank you so much for being with us. If you want to get a hold of us, you can do that by giving us an email. Send us an email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com, gardentalkradio@gmail.com, or you can talk to us directly at 1-800-927-7469, 1-800-927-SHOW. Big show, so lined up for you. So let's get into the program, Holly, and talk about how we can protect our plants during the hottest portions of the year.
Right. So one thing to keep in mind to protect your plants from the heat is to mulch. And so mulch does a number of things. One, it keeps water, moisture in the soil. But
I think of all the things that gardeners don't do, mulch is one of the biggest things, and they don't think that it really has that big of an impact.
And I think that's a good point. And also, most of our gardening is done, or our gardening is done in an organic way. And then if you go out to the woods and you take a little hike, you don't have to hike far into the woods. If you look down at the ground, it's covered with something, whether it be some sort of cover plant that's there taking over, or leaves, or whatever, branches.
A decaying trunk of a tree.
Yeah. And the forest continues to grow. So
we got to thank the little gnomes.
The gnomes.
Yeah, they maintain the forest when we're not there.
Thank you, gnomes.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, you look down and you see that there's something that's magical happening with the gnomes, but also it's basically the ground cover.
Well, how much mulch should one apply around the base of, let's say, a tree or a tomato plant or a pepper plant, etc.?
Well, I mean, that's really, as far as a tomato plant or a pepper plant or a row of whatever, you want to do about 1 inch to 2 inches.
Right.
I would not do more than 2 inches.
Now, if you're going to do wood chips around a tree, you want to go about 4 to 6 inches. Whatever you're putting mulch around, let's say it is that pepper plant or that tomato plant, you can put several inches around the plant, but you also want to move the mulch away from the collar of the plant, that stalk. Now, we do not recommend using wood chips in the vegetable garden on an annual basis, because wood chips, you can decay and begin to rob the soil of nutrient value, mainly nitrogen. We would recommend straw, chemical, seed-free grass clippings, leaves, shredded or unshredded. It really makes no difference. Shredded is going to break down much quicker. If you have very large leaves, such as oak leaves, you would want to shred them so they're not inhibiting water percolation through the soil. Keep that in mind. Mulching can greatly lower the soil temperature, at the root zone. It can have an effect of up to 5 to 7 degrees on a really hot day, and that is, very important to the success and the health and well-being of your plants. In addition to the mulch, we want to water. Keeping the soil moist can also help reduce that temperature at root zone.
Right, and that's a key. And I think one of the biggest things and best things that you can do for your garden and I know it's an investment and it can be costly or somewhat costly up front, is to apply irrigation.
It will pay you back in the produce in which your plants, because it's amazing how much a plant can grow and produce when it has water, and you're not watering it once a week, and you're never watering it enough that one time a week.
So that's the thing, is that it will grow and produce, but it will also fight off disease better because it's staying hydrated. I mean, just look at us. If we become dehydrated, a lot of times we're going to be tired, and I'm sure it weakens our immune system when we're not hydrated.
We're not doctors.
We're not doctors,
just
but
assumptions
it's
here.
just like, I think it just makes sense.
Common sense.
Common sense. Like if you've ever been dehydrated, you usually feel like a little, just bleh.
You're not all there.
No,
you don't feel as focused.
Right, exactly. So same thing for our plants. We want to make sure that they are hydrated. That way they can focus with their day jobs.
Yes.
And so they need water. Plants need water. That's how it works. And something like cucumbers, those are like 98% water. Give them irrigation.
So whether you're using drip works or quick snap sprinklers, drip work irrigation, water hoop, or tree diaper products, these are all items that, transparency, they support the program and have supported the program for years. And because we believe in the product, that's why we continue to ask them to come back. We don't bring products on just because, that's a paycheck for us to pay for the airtime. We use the product, we believe in the product, and that's why we would recommend the product to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't use it and we wouldn't recommend it for you. So keeping the soil moist, damp, like a sponge. You don't want to oversaturate it because you can have problems like we have had, not because we've irrigated, but because we've had substantial amount of water from rain. We've had curled up beans. We've had problems and blotchiness on our basil because of too much ambient natural rain. So you want to keep the soil damp, not over wet, not a bog, but you want to allow it, figure out what works best on your time frame, on your soil absorbent level, on how frequently you need to irrigate your garden.
Right. So next thing we can talk about here, and I feel like this is actually probably becoming more applicable as the world turns, as our climate continues to change. And I personally believe that climate change is a thing. And I mean, it's pretty obvious when you have extreme winters and extreme summers and blah, blah, blah. But shade cloth is a good idea, especially if you're in an area of high sun and maybe you don't have shady areas and you want to grow vegetables and not have them bake in the sun like a baked potato.
Now, shade cloth is usually made of loosely woven polyester or even aluminum, and can be found in various densities and degrees of shade, approximately between 5% reduction of sunlight to up to 95%. And all shade cloth is water permeable, so the rain can go through, your sprinklers can go through, your irrigation, whatever the case is, to allow the plants to be hydrated. But what is occurring with the shade cloth is it's reducing the intensity of light. Now, a lot of garden centers will use this over their outdoor plants, but you can also utilize this item in your garden. They do make shade cloth light enough in which you can lay over plants. Garden fabric is another type of product in which you can use to reduce the amount of sunlight getting to your plants so they're not getting burned. So that's something to keep in mind, and it's based on where you're at and what you need for the plants in which you're growing, what kind of plants you're growing. Or Ivy Organics, they have a 3-in-1 plant guard whitewash that you can use on your shrubs, trees, and bushes on the stalk of it, the trunk of it, because if the sun is too intense, it can actually burn the cambium layer under the bark, and trees can get second and third degree burns. So they have several different colors to choose from in which you can whitewash the trunk of the tree, shrub, or bush to protect it. And they also have a spray in which you can spray on the foliage of your vegetables, all organic, and it will help reduce the amount of potential burnage that the sun or the sunburn that the plant can potentially receive.
Right. And you can use, if you are in a high a high sun, direct sun area, using the white color would be ideal because it's going to help reflect or deflect that sunlight.
So that's some things to keep in mind there. ivorganics.com, dripworks.com, quicksnapsprinklers.com, waterhoop.com, treediaper.com, all products that we use, we recommend. And the key here, and maybe your garden is already too far gone this year, these are things in which you can put on your little dry erase board in your garden nook to pay attention, to look forward to, or to look at, to make your garden better next year. And that's the goal. We all have failures, and if we can improve each year, then we're going in the right direction. So with that being said, one thing you can't go wrong with, and you can always go in the right direction with, it's Walton's Incorporated.
The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by our sponsor, Walton's Inc. Listen, everyone, we know you care about where your food comes from, and you know you want to can and preserve your fruits and vegetables. But what about the meat? At waltonsinc.com, you can get all the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your high standard. Do you want to make snack sticks that people will actually like? Walton's created meatgistics.com. It's an informational site to help you make the best finished product. They even have a full line of their own meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers to help you go from animal to edible. That's Walton's everything but the meat. Again, that's waltonsinc.com. And then meatgistics.com has a committee of over 15,000 users to help you with your meat processing issues.
And even if you're not a processor of animals, they have a long line of spices and seasonings in which you can use for your everyday cooking needs. Well, when we come back, hang around. It's going to be about seed saving in the fall, some things you should be aware of before you just go out and capture some seeds for next year's garden. You're listening to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Protect your plants against damage with a 3-in-1 plant guard and special blend fertilizer. Visit ivorganics.com.
CousinsCompost.com offers a full range of compost and vermicomposting supplies, including the new Royal All-Natural Worm Bedding. Shop Cousins Compost for composting worms, worm castings, indoor and outdoor worm bins, and compost bins. Use coupon code REDWORM21 for 10% off your order at CousinsCompost.com.
Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, rootmaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants, to multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds. Rootmaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit rootmaker.com. Use coupon code RADIO21 and get 15% off your entire order. The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Simply Earth, Seed Savers Exchange, Quick Snap Sprinklers, Water Hoop, Timber Pro Coatings, Bloomin' Easy Plants, Pomona Universal Pectin, Ivy Organics, Tiger Torch, Happy Leaf LED, Seedlink. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you for hanging out with us today. If you've got some problems with hydration of your trees, plants, bushes, squashes, pumpkins, or other vegetation, Tree Diaper has the solution to that problem.
Well, if your plants could talk, they might have a few complaints about not being watered properly. Either too much, too little, who knows. So how do you water properly? Well, you can take the guesswork out by using the Tree Diaper. Tree Diaper is a revolutionary watering system that stabilizes soil moisture, by taking up excess water and slowly releasing it when the plants need it. The tree diaper is filled with water from rain or when you water and slowly releases water over 3 weeks. No pipes, hoses, or electricity needed. Whether you're a first-time gardener or advanced, tree diaper will improve the way you water your plants. It's made in the USA. You can find all the sizes they have available at Tree Diaper. It'll keep your plants happy. Go to treediaper.com. That's treediaper.com.
We have it in our garden. We've got it around our spaghetti squash, our butternut squash, and our Dilectica squash, and it does exactly what is instructed or how it's supposed to work. We hydrated it before we put it in the ground or put it around the plants. It got it released over 30 days. We got a big rain. It swelled back up with the excess water, and now it's releasing it back to the plant. So very easy to use, and
It's very easy to use.
And that's the reason why we're going to have squash this year.
Yeah.
Because that portion of the garden doesn't have irrigation.
And you know what?
Tell me what?
Squash seeds. You can save squash seeds.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about saving seeds. We'll get into squash seeds and what you need to be aware of, but let's go with what everybody would like to save or most frequently saves is tomatoes. There's umpteen thousand different varieties, and how does one go about saving the proper way of saving tomato seeds so they can grow that variety next year?
Umpteen. All right, well, tomatoes are special because they have this little gelatinous slime around them, and that is we don't know why that happens.
Well, but I'll tell you why it happened. You want me to tell? Yeah, I know why it happened.
Tell me a story.
Tomatoes have the gelatinous slime around the seeds. Gelatinous. So whenever they drop in nature, in native world, they would sit there and begin to decay the outer portion of the fruit. And then over the course of the winter, that slime protects the seed and it gradually works its way off. So when springtime comes, the seed can root and be exposed and absorb the moisture that's needed to grow.
All right, tomato seed facts. So tomato seeds, one way is you could take that tomato plant in the ground and see what happens. But the other way is to...
Do we save all types of tomatoes? Heirloom and organic are what we would advise. You don't want to save heirlooms. All right, you don't want to save hybrids. You want to save heirloom or organic.
Right.
Because hybrids are a cross between some specific varieties, not genetically modified, but they don't carry that trait over when you save the seeds. You'll get a tomato, but you're not probably going to get the type of tomato in which you were saving the seed for.
Exactly. So you want to save hybrid or heirloom, organic or heirloom varieties, and
not hybrid. Okay.
All these words. So, all you do is you take your tomato seeds and then you put them in a glass jar or drinking glass, whatever you got, and you put a little bit of water in there and you wait a couple days, and it's gonna kind of ferment. You can take that goop, whatever you want to call it, concoction, put it into a strainer, a fine mesh strainer, rinse it off, and then you take those seeds and you want to put them on like a ceramic plate or something, and you want to label them. If you have multiple types of
even if you have
seeds,
one type, go ahead and label it because you're not going to remember what it is.
Because all of a sudden, all tomato seeds look the same.
And whenever you're putting it in the jar with the water, you're accelerating the process. You're actually fermenting it in order to get that gelatinous slime to be removed from the seed.
Gelatinous.
In order to, so you can save it properly. So in the spring, you can go ahead and put it in your seed trays or your cups, your root maker starter trays, and it will grow right away. You don't have to remove the slime, but that's the process and the reason why. Now, another one that is easy to save is pepper seeds. Now, peppers and tomatoes, not really a problem that you're going to have to worry about is cross-pollination. Very limited, if none, because they have a lot of the both reproductive organs or is in the flower itself. So very limited chance that you may have a cross-pollinated one. But if you do, it's a unique one.
Right. So peppers, you cut open a pepper and you see the seeds right there.
And you save them.
You got
to let them dry, but yeah.
Our cat friend does not care for pepper seeds.
Oh, our Mr. Tex doesn't like pepper seeds? Okay.
No, he likes to steal the food, and he tried to steal the pepper seed thing, and then he ran away from it.
Okay. Now, with all of these in which we're saving, we want to wait until the fruit is absolutely as ripe, almost rotting on the vine, to make sure we have the most mature, fully developed seeds inside of them as possible.
I wouldn't say that for cucumbers, though.
No, cucumbers
No.
is one of these things. An overripe cucumber is a yellow cucumber. However, you can save the seeds from that on one condition, that you only have one variety in your garden, and there's not really other varieties that your neighbors are growing, because they are very, very easily cross-pollinationable. So if you have more, if you have 2 or 3 varieties, they're all going to be cross-pollinated. There's really almost positive definition that they will be cross-pollinated. So go buy fresh seeds next year. Don't worry about saving them unless you're on the farm and you have one variety and there's nobody within miles of you that's growing it. Then you can guarantee that you probably got the right variety and you're going to save it without any issue.
So listen.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why we want to save seeds, because I think that's important. Many people might think, why go through all this trouble? What's the bother when I can go down to my local Stop and Shop garden center and pick up some seed packs? It's because, one, you worked hard to grow those things, and now you have the seeds right there, so why not save yourself some money?
Well, well, on that instance, let's say, and I'm taking a conservative shot here, a pack of seeds is $2. And you buy 20 different varieties. That's $40. If you can save half that, you've saved $20 worth of seeds that you've grown yourself.
You can go get yourself some coffee.
Well, do other things, but anyway, yeah. But you understand the mathematics there, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing, is saving money. The second thing is over time, those vegetables, as you continue to save the seeds year after year, they become acclimated to your little ecosystem in your backyard or side yard or front yard, and then it's like, this is my Baird household tomato plant or whatever. I don't know what's a tomato plant, black creme or something.
And we've seen this now 2 years in a row with sunflowers.
Yes. So we have monster sunflowers in our garden. It's probably about 16
to 20 feet tall.
It's just huge. I posted on my Instagram recently.
And your Instagram handle is?
The Fat Gardener.
And the stalk on this thing is about 3.5 inches in diameter.
It's huge. And it's sturdy.
Yes.
And so what had happened was we planted sunflowers there last year. They must have reseeded or whatever. And now we have monster sunflowers.
And those seeds will fall in the ground and they'll regrow next year as they have years past.
It'll be a happy sunflower cycle.
There you go. And sunflowers you can save seeds from, assuming that you get them before the birds, the squirrels, and other varmints and rodents get a hold of them. Or like we do, we very rarely ever save sunflower seeds. We let them naturally fall in the ground and seed themselves, because sunflowers are one of those crops that really, in our eyes, do not inhibit the growth of other plants. These are mixed among our tomato plants, and they cast some shell, yes, but it's not like it's blocking the plants.
There's tomatoes growing just fine around that monster sunflower, and it's cool and it's fun. So I recommend sunflowers. Make me happy, so maybe they'll make you happy. But you can save the seeds. Now watermelons, you can save the seeds for watermelons.
The ones that have seeds in them, you can grow a seedless variety watermelon, but that's a hybrid. Where I'm talking about the old traditional Moon and Stars. What's the variety? It's the baby something. I'll think of it in a minute. But these sugar baby, yes. These have a lot of seeds, and you just take and spit them in a cup and rinse them off and let them dry, and plant them again next year. If you're in an area where watermelon can be grown and grown somewhat successfully in portions of the United States, some people have figured out very well and very successfully grown watermelon. In the northern areas, I think there is a Cream of Saskatchewan is a watermelon variety that is more adaptable to the colder northern climates or the shorter growing season. If you're in the northern areas, the people listening to us in Minnesota and South Dakota, North Dakota, Boston, and that area, if you're trying to grow an 80 or 90 or 120 pound watermelon, leave that to the Georgians and the Alabamians and the people in Louisiana, where they have that type of conditions that can favor those massive watermelon varieties. Pumpkin. You teased at the top of the segment there about squashes. Pumpkins can cross with other families of the pumpkin family there. Meaning while cross-pollination can occur among some cucurbits, it can also occur within the same species. For example, planting seeds from a pumpkin that was grown last year next to like a striped squash, you're going to get some type of mixture of a squash-pumpkin cross. That doesn't always mean that particular new mortation is going to be that tasty. Sometimes these we see this with, and I think we've got a couple in our garden this year, spaghetti squash has got crossed. We purchased the seeds with some type of zucchini.
Yeah. What do you think that's going to be?
It's going to be a spaghetti / pumpkin / zucchini. It's not. You're going to have to boil it down and try to make some type of something out. It's not going to have a good flavor.
No.
We've done that We've had this happen a couple of years.
Oh yeah.
Where you get this. It's supposed to be bright yellow. It's supposed to be spaghetti squash. And it doesn't even get close to it because it's got a genetic in there from a different type of species of like family.
You can also, another thing you can grow or save seeds if you grow them is gourds.
Gourds, yeah.
That's a good option too.
And beans is a very easy, whether it's hard shell beans or green beans, royalty purple beans, golden beans, whatever the case is. If you want to save some, you want to leave a couple of plants, whatever variety, designate those for specific seed-saving purposes and don't touch them. Let them get mature, let them get big, let them dry on the vine, and you can have a dozen or 2 dozen seeds off a couple of plants in which you can carry over and grow the next year. The thing you want to be aware of with saving seeds such of that magnitude of letting them dry on the plant, or you can do this with peas as well, is you want to catch them when the pods are dry. The bean or the pea inside may not be completely dry, but when the shell of it is dry, go ahead and remove that and bring it in. Let it sit on a plate in indirect sunlight in a cool area, because if you let that pod get wet, you're going to have mold issues and potentially damage the seed by having mold on the seed as well. So something to keep in mind there when it comes to saving those seeds. Well, another thing to keep in mind is summer's just about over, Holly, and the kids are getting back into school, and the days are getting shorter, and in some places cooler. And the problem, you probably have forgotten about some things you need to do with your yard, haven't you?
Yeah, just because it's fall, we don't want to forget about our yards and those Japanese beetles either. They may be gone, but they're not far. Not only did they feast on your roses and berries this summer, they laid eggs in your turf so that they can start.
Not in the turf.
They can start next year. You want to take a stand with Phylum's Grub Gone. Grub Gone is a non-chemical BT granular that specifically targets those scarab pests and their larvae. Simply apply the granular with a spreader, irrigate it into the soil, and let the naturally occurring bacteria do its job.
So not only is Grub Gone easy to use, but the only non-chemical choice that effectively controls those grubs that are in your turf. And my favorite part about it, it's non-toxic to bees and other pollinators such as butterflies and other beneficial insects. In fact, Grub Gone has zero label restrictions for using around flowering plants. So you don't have to get on your hands and knees and pull out those flowering plants, such as dandelions in the spring, that can be toxic to bees when they take off with using other chemicals, before you use Phylum Grub Gone. Go ahead and get it. Check it out. Have you checked it out, Grub Gone? That's Phylum Bioproducts, the natural choice. PHYLLOM bioproducts.com. Well, hang out. Do not go anywhere. Rose Expert. Coming up next, Paul Zimmerman. You're listening to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Straight from the farm, fields, and briar patch, Piper and Leaf Artisan Tea is a tea like you've never imagined it. Get our award-winning tea delivered right to your front door and become part of the Piper and Leaf family. Free shipping over $75 at piperandleaf.com.
Tired of dealing with bugs but don't want to use harmful chemicals to repel them? Naturally Green No More Bugs is all natural and plant-based. No more chemical bug repellent. Use it around your home and on you, indoors and out. DEET-free and will not stain. Repels mosquitoes, ticks, fleas, roaches, ants, flies, and more. No More Bugs is the answer to what is bugging you. Stop using harmful chemicals and use what is safe for you, your family, pets, and the environment. For more information, visit natgreenproducts.com. natgreenproducts.com. Brought to you by Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardens, farms, landscaping, and more. Visit blueribbonorganics.com or call 262-497-8539 to find their products nearest you. You move your lawn sprinklers all over the yard, but you always end up putting them in the same spots. Why not just bury them there? Out of sight, always ready to use, pre-adjusted to water the precise areas you want. Quick Snap Sprinklers makes it easy. In-ground sprinklers without the hassle or expense of laying pipe. Put the sprinklers anywhere in your lawn or garden. Snap on a hose to supply the water. Water on, it pops up. Water off, it drops below ground. You can mow right over it. You can have a buried sprinkler system up and running in just minutes. Each Quick Snap saves thousands of dollars. They install in minutes and operate for years. Visit quicksnapsprinkler.com. The Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Pro Plugger, Dripworks, Waltons Incorporated, Tree Diaper, Janie's Mill, Phylum Bioproducts, Chapin Manufacturing Incorporated, Nature's Lawn and Garden Incorporated, Deer Defeat, Dr. Jim's, Root Maker. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Rose expert Paul Zimmerman moments away, but hey, do you have some yellow jackets flying around that you need to control? Rescue has the device that can fix that for you.
During these dry summer months, you'll notice more aggressive yellow jackets flying around. Yellow jackets are looking for...
That is not something you want to have in an aggressive yellow jacket.
No. Yellow jackets are looking for your barbecue meats, sweet drinks, as well as water sources. You want to keep them at bay with the Rescue Yellow Jacket Traps. Rescue Yellow Jacket Traps are eco-friendly, do-it-yourself option to keep those stinging pests away from you. These traps are a powerful lure for yellow jackets and will not attract beneficial honeybees. All Rescue products are made in the USA. You can go to rescue.com for where to buy all Rescue products. That's rescue.com, yellow jacket traps, and other pest control solutions.
Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Paul Zimmerman is an owner of Paul Zimmerman Roses, Consulting and Design. Paul is the author of the book Everyday Roses, published by Taunton Press, and is an active speaker and writer. He is the former rose consultant to the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina, and is an independent consultant to Jackson and Perkins. He is also actively does garden design and consulting both in person and virtually. Welcome to the program, Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and thank you for asking me to be here.
Well, thank you for taking time. Now, not only you're going to educate Holly and myself, but all of our listeners. We're not experts in roses, and that's why we bring people like you on the program, so we can also learn all together. So let's start with this. What are roses? Are they just a hardy flower, or are they actually a shrub?
They are a shrub. And that is a very key thing to keep in mind. They are nothing more than a flowering shrub. That's really, at the end of the day, what they are. And for a good garden rose, that's really the only way you want to approach it. It's a flowering shrub, just like other flowering shrubs in your garden. Same kind of care, the basics and things like that. So at the end of the day, it's a flowering shrub.
Right. And I think that's very important, is that a lot of people get confused that maybe roses are something more or less or different or whatever. And like you said, at the end of the day, that's what it breaks down to. Now, how does one go about choosing the best rose for them? And or are there roses for newbies versus somebody that may be looking to change things up? Is there any sort of guide or ideal rose for all?
Yeah, I think the thing to keep in mind is that a lot of things that we've learned about roses over the years, and even the last 20, 30 years, is a lot of it was written by folks who exhibit roses, who do the rose shows. And they're very talented gardeners. I'm not saying anything about that in that sense of the word. But their ideals are higher than what the average gardener wants, like myself, for example. I don't exhibit. So I think the first thing to do is think about what is a garden rose. And a garden rose, to me, is the definition of a rose that doesn't take a lot of care, doesn't take a lot of fuss. Basic fertilizing, basic care, cut out dead, disease, dying wood when you need. That's appropriate. Things along those lines, but don't give them a lot of fuss. So where do you begin this process? How do you begin this journey locally? Roses for so long have been told that this rose does well in every part of the country. You all are plant people. You're in Wisconsin, I'm in South Carolina. A plant that does well for you will not do well for me, and vice versa. And it's the same with roses. So try to think locally, local botanical gardens, local independent garden centers that have a good, robust rose program are a good way to go. Local chapters of the American Rose Society, local master gardeners groups are good places to go. So start with what's going to do locally well in your part of the world. You're up in Wisconsin. There's a German rose breeder by the name of Cordes, Kordes. Fabulous roses for your part of the world. They breed in Hamburg, Germany. No spray trials, just terrific roses. So start locally. That's really the place to begin. Like any plant, what does well in your specific growing region?
And then basically, once you find that type of category of roses that work well in your area, kind of the palette of what color you want is kind of endless to some degree, isn't it?
It is, yeah, Joey. The only thing that roses don't come in is the color blue. There's variations of mauve and things along those lines, but the genetics for blue color is not found in roses, which is fine with me. That's fine. But yeah, it's an endless palette of color, and an endless growth habit. If you're a gardener, think about this. So I'm going to say, okay, I've got a flowering shrub for you. You get every color of the rainbow but blue. Most of them bloom all season long from spring to fall. And you get everything from plants that grow 1.5 feet high to ramblers that go 30 feet up a tree. That's the palette that you're working with when it comes to roses as garden plants in a garden landscape.
So much like tomatoes or peppers or eggplants, one doesn't fit all because they have very unique characteristics for each type of plant.
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. And that's the second part about, we talk about growing the best roses for you. Okay, so you say, okay, this is the kind of rose or the genetics or whatever the case may be. Then you start to say, okay, what's the rose's job in the garden? If the job is to line a low sidewalk or something along those lines, well, then maybe you're going to go with something that's maybe going to go 2 foot maximum. But you don't go for something that's going to go 8 foot maximum, try to keep it down to 2 feet. So you have to also begin thinking about that aspect of it, like we do with all other plants in our garden. What's its job? What do you want it to be? Screening, hedging. What do you want to do with that rose? And that's the second part. What does well in your area? And what's the rose's job in the garden?
Now, growing up on the farm, we had roses in the flower bed next to the house. But can you grow roses in containers?
Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. Obviously, you want to stay with some of the ones with shorter stature. Florabundance, which is a class of roses. Is that how roses are generally put together, are classes? So up in your part of the world, Florabundance would do well for you. Polyanthus, spells just like it sounds, would also do well for you as well. So those shorter stature roses would do extremely well. The main thing to keep about when you're doing roses in containers, good healthy soil, the basics, compost, keep that soil alive, keep it moving. Those are the basic things. But roses grow their roots deeper than they do necessarily wide. So I would say a pot that's maybe 18, 20 inches deep is certainly would be the minimum. So maybe a 20, 22-inch diameter pot, half whiskey barrels, fabulous for growing roses. But roses thrive in containers. Underplant them with like herbs and things that tumble over the side. It's a wonderful addition to any deck or any patio.
Thank you. So we are talking with Paul Zimmerman. He's the owner of Paul Zimmerman Roses, consulting and design, and a rose expert. Now, your book is called Everyday Roses. And what can our readers expect when they pick up a copy? And maybe what's something unique or notable that is in your book that would entice them to pick up a copy?
What they can expect is common sense. Roses, sorry to be so blunt, but roses have gotten this mystique of being these phenomenally difficult, fussy, intense things to grow. And my book, when I wrote the book Everyday Roses, I approached it just from a standpoint of this is a plant, it's a flowering shrub. You don't have to do a lot of that fussy stuff. So you're going to get a lot of good common sense. You're going to get a lot of sustainable rose growing. I grow organically. My wife and I have a farm here in South Carolina. I've got probably 4,000 square feet of perennial and flower beds. The roses are in with the perennials. Yes, that's what I do. It's organic. And so that's what you're going to find is just a lot. And what you're also going to find from me is permission for your roses to have some disease, to have some insect damage, to be like any other plant in your garden, not flawless.
Now, with roses, I'm just like any plant, people can use pesticides or they can go in organic means. And I'm based on what you're telling us, you kind of go with that organic means of the common sense. What can I do or what can I allow it to happen to still be beautiful and make it through the season without a whole lot of issue?
Exactly. Yeah, I do. I mean, again, keep in mind what's the rose's job in the garden. If you exhibit, then yeah, you need that perfection. So maybe you are going to go a little bit more towards, some interference in that sense of the word. But I'm not exhibiting, and the vast majority are not. You just want a really nice, pretty plant. So in terms of like insects or insecticides or things like that. Well, find the beneficials. Build that environment to bring the beneficials into your garden. What combats aphids in your neighborhood? In my case, it's hoverflies. I've got plants for hoverflies. So and pick disease-resistant varieties, of which there are so many in this day and age. So that's the key to the whole thing. Is you don't need all those chemicals in order to grow roses any more than you need it to grow really most other plants.
So, what are some things to keep in mind for people who are going to grow roses for the first year? And I guess the second part of that question is people always want to have as many blooms as possible. Is there a trick to getting the maximum production off of a plant, or is it all genetics?
The answer to your second question is yes, and that's a teaser, and I'll jump into the first one first. Um, so in terms of growing your first year in roses, patience is what I really advise. The rule we always use as roses is sleep, creep, leap. So the first year they're going to sit and they're going to want to establish their root system. That's what you want. You want that plant to get its roots first. Remember, roots first, top second, absolutely key. Then you'll start to see them push some growth. And by the second or third years, when they really come into their own and start to blossom a lot. So that's the key with roses. Be patient. Give that rose time to settle into your garden. Don't automatically hit it with, a high nitrogen, which is that first number on the NPK scale. Give it time to settle in and get to know your garden a little bit and stuff like that. That's a real important thing like that. Light hand when it comes to trimming and pruning. Let the rose find its own size and its own source and what it wants to be in your garden. That's the main thing to do. And in terms of the rest of it, yeah, I mean, roses, they're at the end of the day, they're easy to grow.
I think that's definitely very helpful. I think people are intimidated by it. Maybe they overthink something like growing roses. Now, what are some great rose growing resources that you could direct people to?
Yeah, I would say, I mentioned the American Rose Society. I think that's a great resource. They've got a national organization. They've got local chapters all over the country. That's a wonderful resource for people who grow roses in your neck of the woods. So I think that's a great place to go. The internet, Facebook groups. There's some wonderful Facebook groups out there that talk about growing roses where you can hook up with people locally as well. Local independent garden centers are also great rose resources for things like that. So those are the places that I would start you with. I think, again, I think the American Rose Society with their local chapters is really a wonderful place to get introduced to the world of roses.
Now, I'll put you on the spot in your journey in being the expert in roses that you are. Is there a mistake that sticks out in your mind going, I know now, why would I have done that back then?
Boy, that's a good one. I got to tell you, in 20 years, Jory, you're the first person to ever ask me that question. So I love it. Yeah, I think if I had to go back and have a mistake, I started growing roses in Los Angeles, California, and which is sort of an intense, exhibiting rose showing area. And I think I fussed over them too much. And it took me a while to begin to realize that that's not the thing to do. And so I realized, don't fuss over them too much. Let them be what they want to be. So if I made a mistake, I worked too hard at it, I think would be the mistake that I made.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate having you all on the program and all of your great information. Paul, can you tell our listeners on where they can find out more about you and your book and all of the information you have for them?
Yeah, the best place to go is my website, which is very simply paulzimmermanroses.com. There's my book there. You can purchase it there. Also, the link to my Facebook group and all the other things that you may want to find out about what I do and what I can help you with. So just, paulzimmermanroses.com. That's the central place to get a hold of me.
Well, Paul, we greatly appreciate your time and the information you not only educated Holly and myself with, but all of our listeners across the country.
It's been my pleasure, and happy rosing.
Absolutely. And when we come back, it's going to be your garden questions, our garden answers. You're listening to the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Rinse Kit, pressurized water on the go. No pumping, no battery, simply fill from your spigot or sink on the way out for up to 5 minutes of spray time. Anywhere, live dirty, rinse clean with Rinse Kit. With the right tools, plant maintenance is easy and more effective. Ironwood Tool Company has the right tools for your project. From pruners to loppers to saws and shears and cleanup tools, get the right tool for this season, making your job much easier. Find them all at ironwoodtools.com. Is your dog that's causing dead spots in your lawn? Dog urine can burn lawns and ruin the appearance of your lawn very quickly. Fortunately, our friends at Nature's Lawn has a solution for this problem with their Spotless Lawn product. Spotless Lawn's three-way action helps neutralize dog urine, helps move it through the root zone, and then helps the grass recover. If there's still life left in the grass, Spotless Lawn will help resuscitate it. Visit natureslawn.com and look for Spotless Lawn. That's natureslawn.com and look for Spotless Lawn. Hello, I'm Joey Baird from the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show. If you're looking for merchandise for the program, you can go to thatismyshirt.com and get shirts with our logos on it. If you'd want to go a different route, they have a lot of comical, logical, and witty sayings on shirts that you can wear that makes a statement. From valedictorian from Common Sense University to I Heart Compost to Don't Be Just Average Today, and a number of other great sayings. It all can be found at thatismyshirt.com. Thatismyshirt.com. Sizes from small to 5 extra large and multiple colors per shirt to choose from. Thatismyshirt.com. The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Blue Ribbon Organics, Naturally Green Products, Ironwood Tool Company, Easy Step Products, Rinse Kit, Soul Brew Kombucha, Wild Delight, Rykon Vitova, Chip Drop, BaleBuster.com. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us today. You want to get a hold of us, question and answer time, you can do that by two ways. Sending us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com, or that's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or if you would like to talk to us directly, you can do that by jamming your fingers in the phone and giving us a call at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. Had a couple of calls come in this week. Let's go up to Ed, who's listening to us on WNAX 570 AM. He's got a problem with some onions I think we can help him with.
Yeah, this is Ed in Worthington, Minnesota, and I have Walla Walla onions that I planted, and they aren't very big at all yet, but I got 2 from the farmer market, and they're at least 2.5 inches in diameter. So what am I doing wrong? Am I planting them too deep? Not deep enough? What am I doing wrong? Thank you.
Okay, so that question, that phone call intrigued us because there's more information that we felt we needed to gather, so we called Ed up and had a little conversation with him. He got the onions, the Walla Wallas that he's growing that were small in stature from starts, from a garden center, I believe, something of that magnitude. And the ones that he got from the farmer's market were what you would expect to grow in your garden. He also was given some onion starts. That's the green pencils, right, Holly? The green pencil plants from a relative, and those have done exactly the same as the ones that he purchased from the farmer's market. So we kind of went to the process of elimination and kind of came to the determination among us that there was some type of issue from the farm in that grew the starts for him to purchase from his garden center. Now, whether that be that they were tainted with some type of toxicity, some chemical, labeled incorrectly, we don't know. But this can be something that you need to be aware of, that when you buy a plant from a garden center, 99% of the time, that plant is probably exactly what it is. A Walla Walla onion, a black creme, a jalapeno, whatever the case is. But there is cases of misidentification and wrongly putting the wrong label on it. So that is what we decided and determined was the issue that we felt with his Walla Walla onion. So something to be aware of when it comes to purchasing plants or online. Not everything is always 100%. Let's go down to Florida. Charles called in. He's got a question about a cactus.
Charles, I have a question. I have bought a little cactus about 3 years ago, one with the little red tops on it, and I noticed it's starting to fade, and I see something growing out the side, so I broke it off and I planted it. And then, a week or so, I had another one come out. I took that off and planted it. Well, the first one is about 6 foot high now in the pot, and the other one's about 5 foot high, like one stem going all the way up. And I really don't know what to do with them. So they put them in bigger pots? Well, thank you.
Okay, Holly, he's got one that's about 5 foot and one's about 6 foot. What can he do with his cacti?
Well, you can definitely, he could put it in a bigger pot. That's not a problem. Or combine them into a very large pot. Otherwise, if you feel that they're too tall, I think, if you're trying to have a cactus, maybe even in your home that's 6 feet tall, that could be intimidating, you can trim them up to a third of the height off. So like if in his case, he could essentially trim 2 feet off of that 6 foot tall cactus. You can try to propagate it by putting it in, there's a specific soil mixture for cactuses, for those type of plants like succulents. So you could try to repot it or propagate that top portion you cut off into another pot and see if it grows. Otherwise, you can just leave it as is.
All right. So hopefully that is helping. So we got calls from Minnesota all the way down to Florida and everywhere in between. If you want to be like Charles or Ed, you can certainly do that by calling us at 1-800-927-SHOW, 1-800-927-7469. Put that in your phone. You're welcome to give us a call 24/7. We'll call you back if you can't get through to us while we're on the air, and we'll address the question and give you an answer. Holly, we had a response to episode 19 of our program that was about gardening no matter your body size.
Yeah, they wrote in and said, I love this show because I am also large and I feel so comfortable here with you both. Thank you. And that was, into response to kind of validating no matter your body size, you can garden.
Right. All right. Next question. We had a problem with some tomatoes, Holly.
I have been watering with overhead sprinkler, and I have seen halfway up my tomato plants that on the stem are white things, for lack of a better word, or growing on the stem. Is that a mold or fungus?
No, it's not. It is actually roots that, because of the moisture that you are providing on the stem, because of that above ground irrigation, it is actually developing roots. These hair follicles on the stem of a tomato. We notice this at the time of planting. That's why we encourage you to plant it deep, because those all can potentially turn into more roots. So what is occurring is, and this will occur in very humid climate areas where you have very thick, dense humidity, that these root follicles will begin to emerge up the stem and try to basically look for soil, because it's so wet, it feels like it's actually under soil, so it's creating such roots. So nothing's wrong with it. Don't worry about it. It's not going to hurt it if you don't do anything. It's not going to hurt it if you do anything. Just let it be. No problem at all. Next question. My cucumbers started to yellow at a very young, small size. I know typically yellowing cucumbers mean they're overripe, but these didn't even get to very large at all. What could be the problem here?
Yeah, a yellow cucumber can be the result of either a virus, too much water, or a nutrient imbalance. And a lot of times too much water will flush out a lot of nitrogen from the soil, and nitrogen is what makes your plants green. A nutrient imbalance would also indicate that. So if this is continuing and it becomes a problem, I would recommend getting a soil test and figuring out like what's going on in your soil, or maybe you could try planting them somewhere else. But cucumbers, they do need...
They're heavy feeders.
They're heavy feeder, yep. So they need... And they don't last, like they don't grow very long in the garden. They kind of just grow for a few months. So if you want the best cucumbers and you're struggling, you might want to think about a soil test so you can continue to grow nice cucumbers.
Where can one get a soil test, Holly?
So a lot of times you can just go online to search for a soil test, or you can contact your local university extension. I know here in Wisconsin, you send it in for a nominal fee, and then they will do a complete breakdown for you.
And just like anything in life, the more money you pay for the test, the more detailed information. If you want to test for this or that, or all different types of nutrient values, you can do that based on however much. But the general test will tell you where you're at on your NPK and the recommendations on how to get it to where it needs to be for what you're looking to do for it.
And I would recommend the soil test. Now, we actually were going to do one. We didn't. We ended up doing raised beds.
Right.
But if you garden in the same area and you start to notice like, okay, this crop is kind of off and this one might be off, and
every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, every 3 to 5 years
is where you need to recommended.
So I would definitely recommend that.
All right. Well, with that being said, we are out of time, and we thank you for yours. Did you miss the? Oh, we got one more comment there, Holly. I totally missed that.
It's from Marianne, and she said, "Hi, I'm from Southern California, and I love your show." Well, thank you, Marianne. We appreciate you listening.
Well, we thank you for that. We've got them in Minnesota, Florida, California. We appreciate all of you tuning in wherever and however you're capturing the program. We are out of time, and we thank you for yours. Did you miss any portion of the program today, or you want to revisit it? Well, there's a couple of avenues in which you can do that. You can send us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and we will send you the link to this program. You can also go to our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, under the Season 5 tab at the top of the page, and catch up on all past episodes and see where you're at there. And you can check out previous seasons all on that site as well, in addition to our in-garden and in-studio videos of the program and other topics there. Do not miss next week's program. We're going to talk about how you can grow great garlic in your garden no matter where you live, as well as understanding the multitude and the varieties of flour that you can purchase for cooking. We're going to cover that. And our guest is author and blogger Lori Bowl, and we'll answer your garden questions. So until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.